So, good evening. We are back to the Spirit's book. We are on chapter 1 of book 3, the moral laws. And you've been studying for the past 2 weeks, good and evil. We haven't finished yet. We are going to see if we can finish today. We may be able to do it. Again, the concept of good and evil, as we discussed the study with Elmo this past couple of weeks. God, as being perfect and just, did not create evil. God created only what is perfect, what is good, and what is right. Evil is a creation of us humans when we deviate from the natural law, when we make choices that go against the natural law. We could say that there is no evil, there is the absence of goodness, but we know that there is evil in the act. But we are all imperfect spirits, so we can try to avoid calling others evil persons, even if we are tempted, because we should call them imperfect spirits, still in need to learn and to evolve. So we stopped on 638 and we're going to start on 639. We can go over a little bit more of these concepts as we discuss the questions. Philip, you're on mute.
The wrong we do is often the result of our position that has been determined by others. In such a case, who should be held mostly accountable? Those who are the cause of the wrongdoing. Therefore, persons who are led to commit wicked acts due to being in a position that others have made for them are less guilty than those who have actually caused them to go astray. All individuals have to suffer the consequences for both the wrongs they have done and that which they have caused others to do.
Yeah, the concept of accountability for the wrongdoing is an interesting concept when we discussed and we talk about that we are as more responsible according to our knowledge and according to our degree of evolution. So when we commit an evil act out of ignorance, we are responsible, but it's smaller responsibility than when we commit an evil act out of our inferior tendencies. This example here, when it talks about the position that has been determined by others, right? Let's think about the massacre of the Jews in the Second World War, right? The command comes from Hitler and from the generals, and then you have the soldiers that execute. How much are these soldiers responsible? Again, let's talk. We're not talking about our external judgment of them. We're talking about their own responsibility according to their own conscience, right? The ones that have decided to do that are the ones really responsible, right? These are the heaviest responsibility. The ones that enjoyed the acting on the command of others, enjoyed the killings, enjoying the massacre, working in the concentration camps, they also have a huge responsibility. Not as big as the ones that started, but still because of the enjoyment they take on it. The ones that are there following orders, not doing anything cruel out of their own decisions, but they're just following orders and are kind of unaware of the responsibilities they have, or are forced to do that because, you know, if you deviate, you at that time you could go to prison or be killed by the army. They are still responsible because you are responsible for your actions. But it's like when we talk about, you know, primitive human beings that commit crimes in the beginning of their evolutionary path without knowing what to do. So the responsibility is not the same, the degrees of responsibility. For the same crime committed by different you have different responsibilities and different degrees of consequences, right? So the commanders, when they go back to the spiritual world, they will have no spiritual protection around them, not because there is not, but because they wouldn't, because of their mind, they wouldn't be open and prepared to receive any spiritual assistance. They will be surrounded by evil spirits there, also inferior spirits that will hijack them, like we see in the movie Ghost. Remember the dark spirits? Now, a soldier that is just executing the order and doesn't take any pleasure on the killings and is just following orders, they have the responsibility. When he looks back on what he did, he may feel guilty, but then he will have the assistance of the spiritual benefactors to try to guide him to a faster recovery on the consequence. Again, we have to face the consequence of our actions, and they will have to face the consequences. But the degree of facing the consequences is according to how much you are following orders because it was your job, or how much you are really taking pleasure on what you are doing, and if you are giving the orders, even worse, right? Okay.
John, is it the same as capital punishment?
Capital punishment, good example. Yes, that's a very, very good one that we can talk, because there is capital punishment in this country, right? It becomes a little bit more complex, right? Because if your work is to do the execution, you're not forced to do that. Not in this country. You can do another job. You don't need to do that. So if you are there, you are much more responsible. And then, of course, what about the judge that condemns, right? How much is the judge responsible? Also responsible. It's a complicated. The judge may have in his conscience that he was only following the law. But we know better nowadays, and there is consequences for our decisions when we could make different choices. The issue here is when you are forced because you cannot make different choices. Because if you choose to disobey, you are going to be punished by the ones that command you, or then it's a different story, right? But when you have freedom of choice and you choose to do the job, it's difficult to excuse you. Again, you are not as guilty as those that are in favor of the death penalty and are working for the preservation of the death penalty and so on and so forth. But again, we should know better nowadays, right? And
as of note, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We had a very interesting communication this Monday of someone in spirit in that position. He was in the position of a commander in the past. He commanded a lot of people to commit atrocities against others. And now he is suffering, not only for those who were victims, but also for the ones that he commanded keeps coming back to him and asks, what do I do now? Help me now. So the degree of responsibility is so great that it's responsible not only for the victims, but the ones that he led to commit the wrongdoing.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people ask about where, how is Hitler going to reincarnate on Earth, right? And again, I heard from, and I don't have anything written, but I heard that he's in no position of reincarnating on Earth. He was taken to another world because it's too much, right? And again, we need to understand that we are all imperfect spirits, and even Hitler one day will be a perfect spirit. So he has a path of evolution that he has to follow, of course, with a lot of struggles because of all the evil acts. But there is a path for everybody, and that's why I said in the beginning there is evil, the act of evil, but we are all only imperfect spirits. Some that, because one thing that it's going to be discussed lately here is it's the responsibility. You are tempted to do evil, but you have no resources to do it. If you had it, you would do it. How much responsible you are, right? That's also a very interesting point, right? Because if you are tempted, but you can, but you control yourself, you are already in the path of evolution, because we are all imperfect spirits, so we have inferior tendencies. Our duty is to learn how to control them, right? To prevent ourselves to commit those evil actions, right? So it's very complex, but it's very interesting when you discuss the different layers of good and evil, and also the evil that you do. Again, what we know, and the Spiritism teaches us very clearly, is that everything that we do, we are responsible, good or bad, and we will have to face the consequence of our actions. And the consequences are according to our knowledge, because again, we talk about a 2-year-old child breaking a vase. How much responsible is a 2-year-old child breaking a vase? It's really almost not responsible, right? They'll face the consequence. Yeah, time out. You're going to go to your room and stay there for 15 minutes, 5 minutes. Yeah, it's the same with spirits that are primitive or very in the beginning of the evolution and commit mistakes. It's very, now, the same child, when it's 10 years old, he breaks the vase, they know what they're doing. The responsibility, again, they're still a child, but they know what they're doing. They know they shouldn't be doing that. So they have, the punishment has to be more serious from the parents than normally is, right? So again, we can compare that to our progress as spirits. The more you know, the more responsible you are. And again, it's with our own conscience, right? It's our conscience that is going to punish us in the end. And it may not be immediately. It may take a long time, but eventually we'll get tired of it, and then our conscience is going to scream to punish. So we're studying liberation, right? And we haven't reached the rescue of Gregorio yet, right? And we saw in the beginning of the book that the way to reach him was because he was bored, right? He was tired of doing it. He didn't want to change, but he was kind of bored, and that was the opening he gave. And you see that by the end of the book how the change is, and the consequences and the things. But how is he rescued? Out of a discussion? Of course not. How are we rescued from these dark places? Out of love, right? And of course, spoiler alert, it's going to be, we know that, it's going to be his mother. We saw her in the beginning of the book, right? That is going to rescue him. But that's how it works. All right, any questions there? Okay, 6:40, Philip.
If we profit by another person's wrongdoing, even though we took no direct role in it, are we as guilty as if we had participated? Yes. Despite not participating in it, it is equivalent to committing the act. Perhaps we would have retreated before the action itself, but once it was done and they then took advantage of it, it proves that they would have done it themselves if they could or if they dared.
That's a very interesting question, right? Because it applies to the small things or the big things. Let's think of a silly example, right? Someone robs a bank, and when he's escaping, he loses a bag of money, and the bag of money flies all over the street. The majority of people will run there and grab the money and take it, right? So they are profiting from another person's wrongdoing. They are responsible. Again, you're not as responsible as the one who stole the money, but a moral and ethical person, and again, moral and ethical are different things, will give the money back to the bank. Would we? It's on each one's conscience. I'm not going to go there. But again, it's an interesting point because if we go a little bit further to bring a little bit more of a complexity to this. If your family is rich, but you find out that your great-grandparents stole the money, they made the money illegally, and you are now benefiting from it, are you guilty? Let's reflect on that, right? According to the Spirit's book and what we study, no, we are not. Because this is something that was done before we were alive, before we came to here. So what they recommend, the Spirits, is use it to help others. Use it, take advantage of using it to help and practice charity, which is what we should do with our lives. But it's an important point because some people feel ashamed because their money, it's not many people, but few of them feel ashamed because their money comes from, grandparents or great-grandparents that have profit from it illegally. We need to understand the situation. We need to understand what made them do that, if it was out of desire to become rich or any other thing. So it becomes too complex for us to understand the whole picture, right? But going back to the example here, there are many situations in our lives that we end up benefiting from mistakes committed by others. Small things, and we have to be careful with that, right? The bank makes a mistake and puts money in your account. I heard that's happening sometimes. Normally it's the other way around, right? The money disappears from your account and you have to run after. But, sometimes they make mistakes. And there was a famous one like 3 years ago when that they went all the way to the courts because Citibank made a payment that they shouldn't have done to many companies. And then when they found out that they shouldn't, they tried to get back the money, and some of the companies didn't return and went to courts saying that they had the right to, because it was a payment from a company that went bankrupt that should have paid. Citi never received the money but made the payment anyway. So yeah, it's a complicated thing. So again, these are things that happen every day in our lives, and we need to analyze how much are we profiting from other people's wrongdoing. If we know what we are doing, we have to reflect on that. Again, we're in perfect spirits. Here we are not expecting anyone to become saints in this incarnation. we are going to profit from some of other people's wrongdoings here and there because it's how it is. It's our lives, but we need to be aware of it. We need to reflect on it. We need to consider what we are doing, even to prepare ourselves for a better future for ourselves. Okay.
Buying stolen goods.
Buying stolen goods. Yes.
That's a very big one.
Yeah. That's
It doesn't take much reasoning to know that what the guy is offering to you is stolen good. The guy shows, diamond ring that he recognizes, new diamond, he recognizes 18 karat gold, and he offers $100 for that. You know that it's a stolen good. And say, should I buy it or should I not?
And yeah, but it goes down to simple things, right? You remember when they were selling illegal DVDs in the street for $5? You are buying an illegal DVD,
Right.
you are profiting from another person's wrongdoing, right? In streaming, when you are using streaming at the account of your cousin because you don't want to pay for streaming, you are doing the wrongdoing. He's not, but you are, right? Again, we can go granular there, and then we all become so guilty of our actions that we will just stop the study here. But again, it's you see how this is complex, right? We think about the big things, but the small things are also part of our lives. Yeah,
Cheating on a test.
Yeah. Cheating on a test, yes. Who here didn't do it? I know some people never did, but I did. Yeah. So
There was an incident, if I can say.
can you talk louder?
There was an incident many years ago. Started working. Must have been about 20s or 30s. And I was going to work with my sister. And there was an envelope on the floor. So I picked it up. There was money. So I got reserved. There was money there. There was not just so many. My sister had the envelope. And in the envelope, the address of the lady. The money was going to the bank.
Oh.
She was taking her rent to the bank. So I said, I found it. It's mine. It's mine. Thank God. My sister Frances says, no, it's not. But I found it. No, it's not. Look, the lady's address is there. So then we went to the lady. There was no lady. Oh my God. That lady wanted to eat us up.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You hear what Spider said?
No,
More or less. Yeah, she said that when she was young, one day she found an envelope with money, and there was an address in the envelope, and she wanted to keep the money, but her sister Frances told her, there is an address here, we're not going to keep the money. And the old lady that when they gave back the money was so thankful for it that she really needed it. And again, so in this case, if you have kept the money, now you would look back and feel guilty about it, and the poor lady that but again, let's give ourselves a break and understand that we are imperfect spirits, and we are going to sometimes do the wrong things and profit from others, and let's learn from it and move on, right?
One question.
One question, yeah. All right. 641.
is it reprehensible to want to do an evil deed as it would be to actually commit it? This depends on the case. Voluntarily resisting engaging in wrong that we want to do is a sign of virtue, especially when the possibility of fulfilling that desire exists. However, if individuals who have not committed the wrong action simply because the opportunity did not arise are as guilty as if they had actually done it.
That's what I mentioned before, right? As imperfect spirits, we are going to have tendencies to do the wrong things. Each one of us is different, so maybe I will be tempted to do something that Elmo will not, and he'll be tempted to do something that I will not. Of course, we are all different individuals, spirits. But how you deal with those impulses is what they are. That is the difference here. You know, if I would like to kill someone, and I don't kill because I can never find that person, or I can never find an opportunity. But if I could, I would. Then I'm as guilty as if I have done it, right? But if I want to, and again, we go to the extremes here because it's easier for us to understand, right? If I want to kill someone, but I control myself, I think this is wrong. I shouldn't be having these thoughts. This is, my inferior tendencies, and I fight hard to control these impulses. Then it's a sign of virtue. It's a sign that we are working on improving ourselves. We are not perfect, so we are going to have impulses to do the wrong things, and to be aware of these impulses and try to control that. Then is what is a sign of virtue that they are talking here. Many people will do wrong without even considering what they are doing, right? And we know that. And again, now not in killing, but let's go to normal things of life. People taking advantage of others and are proud of it. This is an imperfection that these individuals don't have yet the ability to deal with it. So it's going to come back and as a consequence, because you are responsible and you are responsible for what you did, but also for the impulses that you have, but you didn't do for lack of a chance. You have the responsibility for that. And we are going to see later when we find ourselves in situations where are surrounded by vice and crime, what's our responsibility? Can we escape that? These are the temptations that we have to place ourselves to be able to learn to overcome the inferior tendencies. Because, if I resist the tendency of killing people by isolating myself and living completely alone, did I overcome the desire? No, I just eliminated the possibility of me acting on it. But until I learn how to control the impulse or even overcome the impulse, it's still there, right?
That's the metaphor of the apple in Genesis.
The metaphor of the apple, yeah. The apple is there, right?
Temptation is there. You have to face temptation in order to grow or to mature yourself.
Yeah.
If you live in a completely sterile environment when nothing bad can happen, how can you know?
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't like an apple, doesn't mean that you overcame the temptation. You just didn't like the fruit. Okay, so the next question I highlighted because it's one of the most important questions that we have, and it's a very question that everybody asks a lot of times.
Is it enough to simply not do what is evil in order to please God and to ensure our future happiness? No. We must do good to the best of our abilities. Each of you will have to answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good that you have failed to do.
That is a very direct and serious answer from the spirits, because we tend to think, well, I'm not harming anyone, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm here in my corner. Well, but if you could possibly be doing something else, trying to help others, and you didn't do it, we must do good to the best of our abilities. That's the best of our abilities is very important here. You cannot do more than you are capable of. You cannot teach if you don't know the lessons, right? So you have to be able to have the ability to do what you are trying to do good. But if you have the ability and you don't do it, you are as guilty as the ones that are causing the harm, right? So to close our eyes to what's happening around us in the world and pretend that we have nothing to do with it or we cannot do anything about it, it's a very easy way out. It's a good excuse and increases our responsibility. So when we're talking about the planet being destroyed by humanity, by what we are doing, and we ask ourselves, well, but I'm only one person in 8 billion, what can I do? If all 8 billion think like that, then it's going to destroy the planet. If you do your own part, whatever it is, right? I'm not saying anything specific here because each one has their own limitations and we have to respect our limitations. Again, if someone collapses in the street and starts bleeding, I have no condition of helping someone bleeding because it's going to make me probably faint or something like that. So it's not my ability. I cannot do it. Like Elmo, if he sees someone fainting and falling in the street and start bleeding, because of the work he does, he has the responsibility of going there and try to be of some assistance to that person, right? It's his abilities, right?
It is actually obligation. It's actual obligation according to the law. I must act when there is no one else to act. I have to do something.
Yeah. So it's important for us to understand our limitations and respect our limitations. We cannot do everything. We cannot help the whole world, but we can do our part. We can help a little bit. We can make a difference, for maybe one person. You remember the story of the guy throwing back the seashells, right, in the beach. Shellfish, the starfish, right? That you have 1 million starfish and there is one guy throwing one starfish by one starfish back to the ocean, and the other guy goes and said, do you think you'll be able to make a difference here? And the guy looks at the shellfish and said, for this one I can, and throws back the one. So you can make a difference for one, you are making a difference already. You are already helping someone. If that's your ability, that's your ability. The thing is, you cannot, a lot of us, we look what's happening around and we feel overwhelmed and we feel that we cannot do anything because we won't make any difference. We can all make a difference. If you can make a difference for a very simple thing, cleaning the front of your house so the other people passing by will see and think that it's beautiful, you're already making a difference. The small things, we don't need to do big things, right? If we can, we should, but if we cannot, we have to respect our limitations, right? We have Ricardo here, the composer, right? If he composes the music and doesn't put out in the world, he's being selfish, right? He has the ability. He has to use the ability. So, each one has their own abilities. Yeah. Okay.
John?
Yes.
There's a story about a woman in Florida who she dives for a predator fish called the lionfish. They're somewhat dangerous and they're very hard to find because they slither around in between rocks. However, it's very much an invasive species now and very dangerous to now the area of Florida and up the East Coast. What she's doing is she'll do a dive as much as she can during the week and the weekends. And then if she does capture the lionfish, she will bring them up, and they're now used as a very special cuisine. So they're becoming very popular as a food. I know that sounds a little intense, but she said that, you know, she's doing her part. I mean, the fish are overtaking many other species in Florida now. So she said the best she can do is she can do it a day at a time.
Yeah, I hope you heard what Carol said, right? And she brings a very interesting point here, right? Because when we are killing species that are causing more harm than good to nature, are we doing something right or something wrong, right? That's a discussion, a complex discussion also, but it's our responsibility as co-creators and understanding nature more and more to keep the balance of nature. So if a species is causing damage to nature, it's our responsibility to take measures. Can we preserve the species? Maybe. If we cannot, we need to find balance for nature. Again, it's a complex subject, but it's our responsibility. The more we learn about the balance of nature, the more we are responsible for keeping it, right, balanced. We see this people talking about pigeons, right? Pigeons, they are the rats that fly, they say, right?
Rats with wings.
Sorry?
Rats with wings.
Rats with wings. Should we kill pigeons or should we not kill pigeons? Again, depends on what the damage they are doing, right? They can cause a lot of destruction. So again, just throwing different examples there for us to reflect. It's a complex subject. Is it good or is it evil when we are killing pigeons? Depends, right? Depends on what's the objective, right? If it's the preservation of the balance of nature, you're probably doing good, right? If you are killing because you know, like the kids that like to throw stones at the pigeons and things like that out of cruelty, it's a different story. But not a simple answer. Okay. You are on mute again, Philip. You were on the phone. I had to mute you.
Are there individuals who are incapable of doing good? There is no one who cannot do some good. Only the selfish find no opportunity of doing so. The mere fact of being in contact with other human beings provides the opportunity of doing good every day of your lives for those who are not consumed by self-interest. Doing good is not restricted to giving to charity, but also includes being useful whenever your assistance may be needed to the full extent of your power.
Again, even the most hardened criminals have someone that loves them and someone they care, right? Even you see some very tough criminals that they have a dog that they love and they take care of the dog, right? You hear these stories. So no one is it's absent of the capacity of doing some good, right? On our evolutionary path, some of us are more capable than others. Some are still struggling. Some are still very selfish. So they think about themselves first, second, and third, and then they will think about someone else. But then they will think about someone else. It's not only them, because nobody is completely isolated in the world, right? you see, of course, the good that you can do is according to your possibilities. When the spirits talk about doing good is not restricted to giving to charity, we remember the example of the widow's mite, right? That Jesus gave the example of the widow that gave 2 pennies, which is the comparable, right? And Jesus told his disciples, she gave it more because she needed, and the others that give a lot more money don't need the money. So if you give from what you need, you are doing more charity than those that are just giving off from their excess. So again, we need to be of assistance to the best of our abilities. Right. Oops, jumped one here.
644.
Yeah.
Can the situation in life that human beings often find themselves in lead them into vice and crime? Yes, but those very situations are a part of the trial that has been chosen by their spirits when free. They have chosen to expose themselves to those temptations to acquire the merit of resistance.
So you are born in the middle of a place dominated by gangs, dominated by crime and vice. Can you get out of it? Or you are going to fall into it because it's the situation you find yourself. Again, you can get out of it. And we see examples all the time, right? It's difficult. Normally we fall back into our old imperfections, and we end up complicating our path by going back to commit the same mistakes we did in previous incarnations. But when we are placed in a situation like that, it's because we have the ability to overcome. If we are going to overcome or not, it's on our own individual choices. But if we are there, we have the ability to overcome. Otherwise, the spirits wouldn't allow us to be there, because it would. If you are put in a place that you have no chance of escape by the spirits, something is wrong with the divine law, right? And the divine law is perfect. So you are only going to be placed in places that will give you the opportunity, even if it's a small opportunity, to overcome your imperfections, to evolve. So if they are placed there, they have an opportunity. Most of us fail, yes, because as we are still in a world of trials and expiations, where evil prevails over goodness, we are going to fall many times back to our old habits and still commit the same mistakes. But we are learning. Even by committing the same mistakes, we are learning, and we are going to use it in the future someday to improve ourselves. So there is never a situation that is irreversible in terms of us learning something and progressing. Okay. Okay, 6:45. Go ahead, Philip.
When a person is surrounded by vice, doesn't the impulse to commit vile acts become almost irresistible? The impulse is strong, but not irresistible, because you can sometimes find great virtues within yourself, despite being surrounded by vice. Spirits who remain virtuous in the midst of evil temptations have acquired enough strength to resist temptation and fulfill the mission of exercising a beneficial influence on those around them.
Again, when you are placed in a situation that you're surrounded by people doing the wrong things, and that's something that you have the tendency of doing, that is very difficult to resist. We use the example of you quit smoking and then you go to a bar where everybody's smoking, right? Your first inclination is to smoke. So to resist is to find the strength that you need to overcome. You only know that you overcame the addiction if you are faced with the opportunity of going back to it, right? If someone never smoked in their life, they're going to be bothered by this, the smoke and the smell and everything, but they're not going to be tempted to smoke on the other way around. They're going to be disgusted by it, right? So you are going to be placed in situations that will help you overcome your imperfections. That's the only way for us to evolve. These are the trials and the expiations, right? You are, by isolating yourself in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to overcome your imperfections, because you're not going to be facing any challenges. The challenges are to face the situations and overcome them, knowing that it is difficult. And if we resist and we acquire enough strength, what we are going to feel is very happy and proud of ourselves, proud in the good sense, not in the selfish sense, but in the sense of having achieved something that is important for our progress. And we should be proud when we overcome any imperfection that we have and we overcome our inferior tendencies. Even if it's a lifelong struggle, if we leave this incarnation in a better situation than when we started, we already made progress, and that's what we are here to do. We overcome the challenge, and now we can move forward to other challenges. I was in contact with a lot of the Jewish tradition in the last couple of weeks. And that most of us think that they have 10 commandments, right? They actually have 613 commandments. 10 commandments came from God. The other 603 came from Moses and others. And that there is this guy that goes to a rabbi and talks about a specific commandment that he's finding impossible to deal with it, to overcome it. So he asks the rabbi what he should do. And the rabbi answers him, listen, there's another 612 commandments. Focus on another one. Forget about this one. Focus on another one. Again, it's a very important, wise lesson for us, right? Sometimes we get stuck in our difficulties. Let's choose other paths. We can progress through different paths, right? I think it was, it's very wise, very interesting story, right? Okay.
646.
Yep.
Is the merit of good measured by the conditions under which that action has been committed? In other words, are there different degrees of merit in doing right? The merit of good depends on the difficulty entailed. There would be no merit in doing right without self-discipline and effort. God takes more notice of poor individuals who share their only piece of bread than of the rich who give only what is superfluous to them. Jesus told you this in his parable of the widow's mite.
Yeah, that's very interesting, right? The merit of good depends on the difficulty entailed, right? Again, going back to the bar full of people smoking. You never smoke in your life. You go there, you don't grab a cigarette and you leave, you are proud of yourself. I didn't smoke. Well, you never tempted in any way. There is no difficulty there. It's that type of what they're talking about here, right? So to overcome the challenge that is very difficult for you is where the merit of, where the merit is. Doing good, making an effort, doing good, overcoming your inferior tendencies, it's really what have value. Again, if you have no effort and no self-discipline, there is no merit, to live here and give $1 to the guy in the street that it doesn't cost you anything and you make no effort of it. It's help. It's better than not giving the $1, but doesn't really have much of a merit in it. Talking with the guy and trying to understand what's the issue and trying to be of assistance, that is very difficult and hard to do. That requires effort, courage, and self-discipline. Then there is merit there. Can all of us do? No, we can't. Not all of us can do, but some people do it. They do, it's their work. So it is possible. Okay, we're done with good and evil. There are only 2 questions in the division of natural law, and I'm going to finish these 2 today because then we start next week with the law of worship, which is the first of the natural laws. Okay? So, Philip, just read the 2 of them together.
647. Can God's law be summed up in the rule taught by Jesus that exhorts us to love our neighbor? Surely this maxim contains all the duties that you hold with regard to one another, but its various applications must be shown, or humankind will continue to neglect them as they currently do. Also, natural law covers all the circumstances of life, and the rule you have cited is only one part of it. Humans need specific directions. General guidelines are too vague and leave too many doors open to human interpretation. 648. What do you think of the division of natural law into 10 parts? The laws of adoration, labor, reproduction, preservation, destruction, society, progress, equality, liberty, and the law of justice, love, and charity. The division of God's law into 10 parts comes from Moses and covers all the circumstances of life, which is the essential point. You may adopt it without it being unconditional, just like any of the other various classification systems, which depend on the perspective or situation in question. The last law is the most important because it includes all the others. By observing this law, humankind can advance the most quickly in spiritual life.
So remember, this is chapter 1 is the natural law, the divine or natural law. So now we are going to go into the 10 parts, the division of the natural laws that the Spirit says that the 10 parts that comes from Moses and covers all circumstances of life. The first question by Kardec is, if we have the rule taught by Jesus, just love your neighbor, isn't that enough? It will be enough when we are more evolved spirits. But for now, we still need rules. We need directions, as they say here. General guidelines are too vague. Again, going back to the Jewish, they've been discussing the Torah for 4,000 years, and they are still discussing it, and they're still arguing about it, and they're looking for guidance. So, general guidelines are vague, and we need to have specific directions. Spiritism comes without a pope, without a high priest, without someone that dictates the rules. So it's much more open to discussions and to interpretations, but because we are already ready for it. Humankind is already in a state that it can discuss, most of us, and it can learn from it, or you can profit from it. But in terms of us studying the moral laws, it's very important the division of the natural laws in 10 parts. And we're going to go through each one of them some of them are more direct and easier to understand. Some of them will require us more discussion, right? So the laws are the adoration, law of labor, reproduction, preservation, destruction, society, progress, equality, liberty, and then the final one is the law of justice, love, and charity, which is the most important law because encompasses all others. Also, originally from the Jewish in the Aramaic, justice, love, and charity. All three together is only one word. I don't remember the word, of course, but it's only one word. So you see where it comes from. So we are going to go deeper in each one of them. Again, this is the part of the Spirit's book that is more related to the gospel according to Spiritism. Everything that we study here, we can find a more deeper explanation in the gospel according to Spiritism to complement the work of the Spirit's book. So it's always important for us to go there and consult the gospel. Okay. Any final comments? Yes.
I will be away for 2 weeks in Greece.
Okay, good for you. Enjoy. So we will have to find a replacement to read for us, right? Yes.
I wouldn't do that. I would like someone to volunteer.
Come on, 1 a.m. for you there in Greece. You can join us.
We'll be partying.
All right, Philip, thanks for advice. Starting this Sunday or no? Well, this Sunday is Q&A, so you don't have to read it.
No, I'm leaving tomorrow.
Oh, you're leaving tomorrow. Nice. Enjoy. Enjoy your vacation.
More than 2 weeks. It's like 17 days.
All right. Good for you. Enjoy.
Here.
Yeah, I hope you go to the islands, the good islands.
Well, we'll start at Santorini.
Oh, hey. So you are starting from the top and it's all downhill from there, but that's okay.
That's the way we do it. I'm a downhill skier.
Enjoy it.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Okay, so before we start, we go to our final prayer. This Saturday, we have our friend Alvaro talking about Jewish tradition. Alvaro Mordecai, that is going to talk to us about reincarnation in ancient times. You see him talking. He's been here with us a couple of times in the center recently. And so this Saturday at 11 a.m. through the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube page and Facebook page. This Sunday, we're going to have the Q&A session. It's the last Sunday of the month, so bring your questions, join us to discuss. Saturday, there is an annual event that is promoted by the Tri-State Spiritist Federation, which is the Suicide Prevention Seminar. It's going to happen in the Spiritist Center in Long Branch in New Jersey from 2 to 6 p.m. If anyone is interested, please let me know and I can give more details, okay? Book club on Wednesday, we'll discuss chapter 5 of the book 50 Years Later. And I think that's it for us, right?